live on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, trying something new here this week on our regular Law Firm Marketing Minute podcast. Obviously, normally every Monday morning, but now we're going to expand. Going to go Thursday mornings as well, but we're going to be streaming it live, like I mentioned, on our YouTube channel. Also on our Spotlight Branding Facebook, our Spotlight Branding Twitter, and then I'm also streaming live on my personal LinkedIn. Right now, LinkedIn's live feature still in beta for company pages, and so we don't quite have access to that. Not quite good enough for that yet, but hopefully, kind of a test run today. I think we're still going live. This is still going to get posted, but hopefully, as things grow over time, maybe some people will tune in live. There's going to be a live chat going on, so we can turn this into some Q&A sorts of things. Especially after the episode. Some live feedback going on, especially with what we're talking about and all of that. But this week we're talking about how to, I guess, build a more inclusive law firm. And the first thing that I want to talk about off the top is that I think people oftentimes use the terms diversity and inclusivity interchangeably, and they're not necessarily the same thing. I think diversity is more about demographics. It's gender, race, ethnicity, sexual orientation, veteran status, all that kind of stuff. A diverse range of cultures and perspectives and all of that. Inclusivity, on the other hand, is more about how those diverse uh, perspectives are heard and considered and integrated into company culture, decisions that get made, all that kind of stuff. And so I think there's been a bigger push a lot recently to increase inclusivity. I think especially in the past decades ago, it was just like, hey, this is what the managers decided. You are the workers, you do it. All right. And we're seeing a little bit more of a shift in that for a variety of reasons. It's just, the way the culture is changing, just kind of how more and more people want to have a voice, want to be heard. And I think, building a more inclusive firm doesn't mean that you have to give up any sort of authority or power or anything like that. Honestly, it could, in a roundabout way, make your job easier. It takes some of the pressure off on trying to have all of the answers. You can solicit feedback from your team, and not only does that make them feel heard, but maybe someone's got some legitimately good ideas, or maybe their ideas will spark some of your own ideas to help make the decision even easier. So I want to just provide a few tips for you for how to become more inclusive in your firm if it's not currently part of your firm's culture. And the first one is just getting managerial support. I think you need to make it a priority for yourself, but also your leadership team also needs to recognize it as a priority. And so, there are studies out there that show that more inclusive businesses uh, actually perform a lot better. Deloitte, did a study, said that inclusive workplaces are 6 times more likely to not only be more innovative, which obviously that's a given, but they have over twice the cash flow per employee compared to companies who may not be as inclusive. So, look, you've got a chance to increase your bottom line in just by opening up and listening to people and you know considering what they're doing and all of that. And so I think once you've got your leadership team all on the same page with that, it becomes easier to make it a core part of your company culture. Second one is just to make it part of your employee training. So uh, you know, people, especially new employees, you don't know what kind of environment they're coming from. They may not come in with the expectation that this is an inclusive environment. They may assume that like no one cares about their ideas, or that that they're not encouraged to bring ideas or anything like that. And so that's a big thing to do, is just have that right there in the training manuals and all of that. And so um, let them know that it's a firm that just embraces the diversity on all levels, and encourages them to develop those skills that are necessary to build a workplace. And I'll say right now, like, I think we do a pretty good job of this here at Spotlight Branding. Um, we our overall setup. I don't know that we've ever come outright and said that like we are super inclusive. It's just kind of how we've just operated. Like everyone has always kind of had a fingerprint on the direction of the company. I've talked before about how we use the EOS model here. True EOS, just calls for leadership team to do the L10, I think the L10 meetings, but definitely the quarterlies, definitely the annuals, and it's just the leadership team making the decision. But what we do is everyone's involved in the L10s. Everyone's involved in the quarterlies. And, we've had to adjust how we do it as we've grown, because, that many people in a huge meeting like that, where there's a lot of big decisions being made, it can become there could be a lot of noise, but we still value people's input, and we still want people to feel heard. And so I think, especially newer employees coming into this, they've remarked just how refreshing it is to feel heard, and to feel like they're a legitimate part of the direction that the company's going. And so that's a great way, having these weekly meetings, pulsing on things, is a great way to you know, build more inclusivity. Uh, a couple small things, thinking about the language that you use. Um, for example, using like spouse or partner instead of husband or wife, especially if you're not entirely sure of the gender of someone's spouse. Just more gender neutral language. Adding more holidays to the calendar, not necessarily that you're taking off on those days, but just making sure that those are on the calendar, that they're being recognized. I think our default here, especially in the States, is just the federal holidays and like the Christian holidays, Christmas, Easter. But maybe you have people who practice certain religions who don't observe those holidays, or maybe you have Jewish employees, maybe you have Muslim employees, Hindu, Buddhist, whatever it is. And look, I'm not saying you have to accommodate all of those holidays and make sure that everyone's off for every single holiday and all of that. But having them on the calendar at least increases the awareness around it. It gives everyone an opportunity to learn about it, especially if you've had, people, if you, especially have people in the office who maybe celebrate Diwali or Ramadan or something, and most people maybe don't understand what those days are about, or how someone would celebrate those or observe those. It's a great opportunity to learn, and to have the employees who do observe those days be a voice, and help educate people on what's going on there. Last one is just maybe some multilingual signage, especially if you serve a lot of Spanish speaking people, or you're in an area where people speak a different language other than English. It's not, you don't have to mandate that everyone learn a second language, but at least having the option for people who maybe English isn't their first language, just having that there at least makes them feel a little bit more welcome, makes them feel a little bit more comfortable. You can still converse in English, but at least you're getting the ball rolling. They can at least kind of build that frame of reference in their native language, if that's the case. So I mean, those are all the tips that I have about around inclusivity. So hopefully this was helpful. Hopefully, if you're out there watching the stream over, or at least watching the recording later on, hopefully that you guys found some value in it. Obviously, this is going to go up as a law firm marketing minute here later this morning. So all of the regular people who tune in on the podcast can check this out as well. But yeah, that's going to be it. We're going to be doing these short little streams every week. Like I said, if you make time for it, we're going to kind of try to go live around 8:30 every Thursday as the lawn maintenance people are out making a bunch of noise, so might have to adjust that schedule. But um, yeah, mark it on your calendars. We're going to be trying to do it around 8:30 Eastern every Thursday morning. And, come with your questions. We'll try to get some chats going and all that kind of stuff. And so maybe try to build something out of this and have a little fun with it. And so that's going to do it. We will see you next week.